Hello, welcome to Press Record Media's One Take Podcast. I'm Will Stroud, and I have my partner Ryan Timms here with me. Today, we're going to do some director commentary for some branded doc content we worked on last year, a piece that we're really proud of. This was a piece shot in upstate New York for, the client was Bobcat Tractors, and they brought this customer story to us, and it was a family who has a pediatric cancer retreat in the Adirondack Mountains. Beautiful scenery, hundreds of acres of land out in the woods, and we were selected to tell the story. So this one was pretty heavy as far as the emotional baggage that comes along with it. So it was very touching for our crew to learn about this place and what they do and how they help kids dealing with cancers and how the families go through it. And this is a place of peace for these families to come as they're dealing with something that's really heavy. And yeah, it's really cool that this place exists, and we were lucky to get to tell the story about it. So let's just jump right in.
Sure. All right.
We're at the lodge at Dreaming Tree Ranch
in
Potsdam, New York. This is a pediatric cancer retreat, part of the Help Sammy Kick Cancer Foundation tract of land.
The Help Sammy Kick Cancer Foundation.
That's one of my favorite shots.
Yeah.
That one of Kim here at the fire. They were funny that they wore their Help Sammy Kick Cancer shirts the whole time we were there. Like, we were filming over multiple days and multiple trips for this, and it was funny that they
had their branding on point. They knew they wanted to get the message out when they had their chance to be in the video. So we're just early on we established the main characters here. Jim and Karen are the married couple that started this foundation because their daughter actually died of cancer at a pretty young age. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to create this safe place for families to come and invite other families free of charge to come spend time at this lodge as a therapy. So we wanted to establish who the people are. Getting into the weeds a little bit more, can you tell us about how we did multiple trips up to upstate New York for this one?
Yeah, this one was pretty rare in that we set up. So Bobcat, the client, had already identified the customer that they wanted to do the story on, and we set up the first trip to go out there. And when we got there, it was only Jim and Karen that were available to film for that first trip. And while we were there, we very quickly realized we needed the perspective of one of the families who had been there and lived through what Jim and Karen provide to really show what it is that they do, that it was kind of hard to show that with only Jim and Karen. They can talk about what it is that they do, but we really wanted to show it. And so this is only 20 seconds or so in here, and we've already seen the interview shot, which is pretty early for us. Usually we try and hide or wait to do that a little bit later. So we've seen the interview shot, we've seen Jim and Karen, and we've seen them with the families. And when we knew that we needed to film with some of the families, we called Bobcat while we were on set, and we said, hey, we have to set up a time to come back. We need to come back in a month. We need to make sure that we can get at least one family here, interview the mother, the father, the kid, and have them talk about their experiences. And we were fortunate enough to get that. And some of those interviews made this final piece, but really the B-roll is what we used the most of at the end of it all. I know that we made some cut downs that included some more candid moments from the families that were separate deliverables from this video that we're watching. But I know that in this piece, it's a ton of B-roll, and we were fortunate that there was multiple families who came during our second visit.
Right. And then it's not super often that a scope changes mid-project like this, where we get there, we realize we got a really special story. It could be something even bigger than what we originally planned. So we reached back out to the client. We're like, hey, I think you guys should care enough about this to bring us back out here when we can have some families out here that are really here for the whole purpose of this retreat, not just having Jim and Karen tell the story, but showing it what these families experience. So luckily the client was really cool about that. So shout out to Bobcat and the marketing team for letting us go back up again to make this piece even more special. So yeah, that's something that we don't normally get to do. We find a cool story and then we realize it's even bigger than we thought. And then we go again and we change the scope, change the budget. That doesn't happen super often.
Yeah, that's true.
Is a foundation that we started by helping families financially that have received a pediatric cancer diagnosis. And then it grew into
so their interviews
the lodge
here
at
are
Dreaming
being
Tree
conducted
Ranch,
in
where we could host families
the lodge,
that have
the
a
home
child
that they
with cancer
renovated.
for a week to 10 days to just escape.
give them a time away from cancer that they can enjoy the beauty that the foothills of the Adirondacks.
They were so great
has
on
to
camera.
offer.
Yeah.
And in
But
interviews.
also it gives them the opportunity to see that life can go on.
So most of the
after
B-roll so
tragedy
far
of
has been
pediatric
from
cancer
the
diagnosis.
Second
our second trip.
Yep.
The lodge for us, it does two things. It actually helps to honor our daughter, Sammy, who passed away in 2017 after a bout with a glioblastoma.
Yeah, so here's the section about Sammy.
Also
You
gives
start to
us
see
the
a lot of
ability to
pictures.
interact with other families that are going through something similar to what we did.
Sammy, well, she's a firecracker. And she was not only a spark plug for our family, but for the community as well.
So this is one where like we couldn't show Sammy, right?
Yep.
She wasn't with us. And we had to film a lot of these pictures to show the times with the families, really honor Sammy's life, everything that she accomplished at such a young age. As the family's kind of talking about it, we were very fortunate that they had a lot of these photos and that they kept a lot of this stuff like out and accessible for other families who come to visit. What we actually did is we took photographs. We took stills of the printed out photographs and used them to create these animations and camera movement and post, which we do sometimes, but typically that's not like the first thing we jump to. I think almost all of our pieces have stills in them, but we always like to try and shoot as much as we can
Right.
while we're there.
In a situation like this where someone's passed and we're just kind of going off old photos, archival photos of what the family was comfortable sharing with us. Luckily, they had a pretty big archive of photos. She had a lot of photos on her iPad she was sharing with us. And that's really the only way we could kind of tell the backstory part of this since, like you said, she's not available. She's not around to be there with us.
Yeah.
She packed into 18 years what it'll take us a lifetime to be able to accomplish. And she and the lodge and all these families that we're hosting are the reason we get up every day and do what we do.
That soundbite really sums up the whole video for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like how that soundbite is kind of isolated and just let it breathe on both sides just so you can feel it a little more rather than
Yeah.
stacking another
So
soundbite
the
right
lodge
after it.
Yeah.
is 240 acres that is owned by the foundation.
A lot of this
Then
drone
Karen and
stuff
I and our family
that you're
own
seeing,
farmland
I remember
around
when we
this,
shot it, we were
close to
really proud
2,000
of, but
acres.
this is also a result of like when we got there for the first time, like I'll pause it here on this 2 shot of them. Like we could only show so much with the 2 of them. So we got to film a lot of stuff like out in the woods, in the property, talk to them about the different like fun things that they have for the families to do. But the drone stuff was really some of the biggest takeaway from that first shoot. And then we ended up using a ton of the B-roll from the second trip
Yep.
out there, like I mentioned before, with all the families. And I think that it really helps kind of hit home the impact of all their hard work. And we're, 2 minutes in on this 5-minute video, and there's only been like 1 stray shot so far of a bobcat.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
in a drone shot passing.
Yeah, again, this is cool when a client will trust us as a creative partner and let us weave the story without going too hard on the branding. Early in the video, we like to discover the people first and understand who they are before we start throwing logos and sound bites relating to the brand back in. So, again, no right or wrong way to do this, but our style is let it take a little while to get to the meat and potatoes of what the brand wants to see, right?
Right. And the structure so far has been like really establishing who Jim and Karen are and why they do this, why they renovated this home on their land, provide this for other families because of what they went through. So we've really established them with a little more concrete to who they are, what their values are, why the viewer should care about them. And now we can start to try and weave in a little bit of the branding. So I think here's where we start to take a little bit of a turn and we start to see the equipment. They talk about what things that they like, and we can organically talk about how they use the equipment to better what they're able to provide.
Such a
for the
diverse
families.
piece of property. We have about 10 miles so far of connecting trails.
We use those for side-by-siding, hunting, hiking, cross-country skiing in the winter, snowshoeing.
And then I like making little diversions off of the main path, just little destination places. And that way, when we host a family here, if they need some time away, there's some great places to just go and sit and contemplate things and recenter themselves. So that's my favorite.
So pretty short little
Karen,
aside
does
with
a
branding,
lot of
right?
work
That
with
was
me.
about
She
40
loves Bobcat
seconds.
equipment. We have actually rented
And I think we
other
get,
brands,
you know,
and she made it very
max
clear that
another
Bobcat
30, 40
was
in
what she wanted here.
before we get back
Track
to
loaders. We have an
story
E42 excavator. We use those constantly for driveway maintenance. We've got 1,700 feet of driveway and a large parking area here to maintain.
This shot is funny, right? This
Yeah.
two shot of them
Yep.
coming up. I say funny, it's cute. And it kind of mirrors the shot that we stopped on earlier, right? Where the two of them are walking hand in hand. Like visually, that's what we're trying to reinforce here
Yeah.
is that they both love and use the equipment. They both love each other. They both take care of the property. Like visually, we're just kind of trying to reinforce some
Yep.
of these themes with shots like this that
Right.
mirror things earlier on in the video.
And this was cool too because this is the first time we ever got to film a female operating the equipment. Mostly this is kind of a male dominated thing, heavy equipment. You don't really think too much about it, but it's rare cases in all the shoots we've done that we've actually gotten to film women operating. So it's kind of special when you get the ladies behind the wheel and let them whip it around.
Little behind the scenes tip here too is the headsets that they're wearing. So that's actually comms to us as camera operators. And unfortunately, you can see them in the shots, but with big construction equipment like this is the best way for us to be able to talk to the operator and say, stop, turn around, speed up, slow down, get the shots lined up the way that we need. We found this system to be really, really efficient, but it kind of works in this scenario because it looks like maybe they're just talking to each other. She's kind of looking over at him. And they're both wearing the headsets that nobody's the wiser.
Right.
But just a little trick of the
Area
trade
here
there
to
from
maintain.
us.
The biggest piece, again, has got to be the track loader, the T66. I drive that back and forth almost as much as I do the side-by-side. One of the things that I've come to realize is that having better equipment is not an expense, but actually makes you money and saves time. But the comfort, reliability, and functionality of the Bobcat equipment is second to none, and that's what we've chose to go with.
There's definitely more drone shots in here than we normally do, but we really wanted to illustrate the vastness of this place and how pretty and green it was. So it really is the best way to show and tell the story.
The setting and the location, in a way, is a character in this story because so much of what they do is provide this escape for families. And I think that we reinforce that visually by letting the viewer see and kind of feel with the tone of the music and the, you know, Jim and Karen's voices. Like it kind of, it's sort of soothing in that section. And you feel kind of drawn in to the nature and the beauty of it all.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
here we kind of turn back to like Jim and Karen, right? We see them making the food for the families, playing pool with the families, like interacting with them in the home and out in nature, to really reinforce like how big-hearted and caring that they are.
All the families that we've had here so far have very much wanted Karen and I involved in their stay. We prepare the meals, do the cleanup, set up all their activities, make sure that whatever they want to accomplish while they're here gets done.
And to be able to bring them in here and just see them relax and see them leave with just a renewed sense of fight is just, it's miraculous is what it is. We share a lot of intimate moments, so I
That
just
shirt that
assure
says
them
Dad.
that, you know, this is not a one and done. You know, we're here whenever you need us along your journey.
The first time we were here and I met them, I must have just kind of slinked back into the corner and sat by myself. And Karen came over and just sat down, and all she said was, "I know." And she gives you a hug, and she said, "It sucks." She said, "But you don't have to deal with it by yourself. Like, there's people that get it, and that makes a huge difference to realize you're not dealing with that by yourself."
I think that Sammy would be very proud of what we've done here. Sammy exemplified outdoors and hard work, and that's exactly what we have tried to duplicate here with the trail system, the hunting and whatnot that we offer. These are things that were all very special to Sammy, and she knows that we're helping families, that we're carrying on, and that, you know, we're able to survive and persevere through a great loss.
So we really came full circle, right?
Yeah.
Some of these shots here towards the end, like the exterior of the house, this big drone shot that we kind of wrap up on here. I remember I woke up at sunrise to get all of this stuff, and you guys all stayed in bed. So the first trip we were there, we actually stayed in the lodge because the families weren't there yet. And they were kind enough to let us stay there. And I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. This was like summertime when sunrise is like super, super early. And I got up really early and got that shot of like the side of the house, the shots of the signs, and then some of these drone shots. And I was so stoked shooting that stuff. And then like I came back in, I'm all excited with footage. And then I'm like, oh yeah, everybody's like still asleep for a couple hours.
Yep. Early bird got the worm on this one.
That's for sure. Yeah. Great stuff here. This is a piece that we're really proud of. This piece has actually won a couple of awards for us. Most recently, for the local AAF, we won a silver award for this piece for branded content. And at the time of recording this, we're waiting to hear back from a couple of other Hermes Creative, the Tellys, and hopefully we can add a few more laurels to the thumbnail for this one.
Yeah.
But, this is one we put a lot of love into. A piece that means a lot to us in a different kind of way, and I think is a really good example of a fair way for a brand to align themselves with the values of another organization and how they kind of work together to better humanity.
Yeah, for sure. And, anytime you talk about cancer, it's very touchy, especially for families that are dealing with sick kids and children that have passed way too early. So the subject is pretty heavy. This is pretty heavy stuff, but I feel like, not to brag, but I feel like we did a pretty good job outlining what they do and how they do it, why they do it, without being exploitive, right? There's a fine line there where you could be exploiting families that go through hard things. Brands especially, they have to be careful of that kind of stuff. So I felt like we did a pretty good job weaving this in tastefully without being exploitive.
Yeah, and that's something that I take a lot of pride in as an organization. We talk about this in other episodes, but like in meeting so many different people and doing these interviews, like we as a production company have a different kind of empathy for situations like this, and that I feel like that really makes its way into the work that we produce and is what helps kind of differentiate this type of branded content from everything else that a brand might work on.
For sure. It's funny too, like the relationship we built with Jim and Karen, we built it like really fast and it got really heavy really fast, but it was all good. It was smooth. It was cool. I felt like, we got really close to them very quickly and learned their story very quickly. And then we were telling their story like that same day. Right. So, I don't really know.
Spent a lot of time like on their interviews. We spent a lot of time setting them up, lighting them inside that house. There's a lot of natural light. I'll just go back to one of the interview shots here. Like this is the second angle for, where is it?
There you go.
There it is. Dang. Well, this is the second angle for Jim. And like these lights in the back, we went and turned on and tried to place. I remember this lamp that's kind of behind his head, being very meticulous about like we would move it an inch one way, move it an inch the other way. So like we're thinking about the elements that are in the background, like what people are seeing. Like here's the A cam of Jim, so you can kind of see like the trophies behind him to the right, that lamp I was talking about on the left. We see into the other room. He's nice and bright. This one and with Karen's, I just remember like we had a lot of time, and so we took our time to go through every little thing with this one.
And I feel like we cut back to the interview maybe a little bit more than we normally do. Normally it's like we leave the intro interview shot up long enough to see a title card in the beginning, and then we rarely cut back to it unless there's really a reason. But this was, again, you could kind of see the emotion on their face, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to show kind of what they're feeling and how they're saying it by seeing them on camera when they're talking about some of this really heavy stuff.
Yeah, agreed. And I remember like Karen's B camera is one that I really liked. This shot here.
Yep.
Her B camera angle, I don't know, the fall off behind her is just so nice. And the lighting here, it almost looks like it's not lit because there's so much natural light in the room that you can hardly tell what artificial lights are there. There's definitely at least 3 lights pointed at her from different places in the room. I don't know. This shot just works so well.
Yeah.
I think for creating that emotional connection to her. It's nice and tight. It's those things are intentional.
Right.
We shoot a lot of our interviews tighter than most other companies would, I think, because we're really trying to draw the audience into the person.
Right.
And create that connection.
Yeah, and it is intentional when we have the tight shot on the inside. Like that, her eye line is closer to the tight shot, and then the wider shot is off to the right a little further. So just like that, right? And I think, if I remember correctly, Jim's is the opposite. Jim has the tight shot is on the outside, where he's looking into the wide shot.
Yeah, and that might have been
I think that was a room issue. It was like the way that, because we were right
exactly.
next to the
and the fireplace.
Yeah, the fireplace.
And there all the furniture that was in there. Yeah, and we wanted to kind of shoot into that second room.
Yep.
That other kind of living room that they had there.
Yep.
Another thing that I remember, and this is just like a funny travel thing to me, is that there was no AC in that house because of where they were.
Yeah.
There's never a time, even in the middle of summer, when they need it. They just open up the windows because it gets so nice out. But I'm a little glad we weren't there in the cold winter months.
Yeah, that would have been
snow.
Totally different experience. I bet that place is beautiful in the middle of the winter, but it'd be pretty freezing up there.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this is a special one in particular to me, and I feel really grateful that we were hired to produce something like this, and that we can, share a piece like this in our portfolio. But also, I think it's great for brands to align themselves with organizations that are doing great things for humans, and not brands just aligning themselves with things that might greatly impact their bottom line.
Right. For sure.
This is sort of a soft brand inclusion here. And
yeah.
I think it's great, and more advertising is going to move in this direction. We're seeing it, and trends are moving. More and more brands are going to start producing things that people want to watch.
Yep.
And this is one of their most viewed customer stories on their channel. I think it's the first or second one. And it's been up at the time of recording this at least less than a year. And it's one of their most viewed customer stories. So just goes to show you, like, a real story, people will come.
Yeah.
And they will watch.
For sure. Yeah, this is a piece that, like you said, we're all really proud of it. We put a lot of TLC into making this. And, we're happy that the story was told, and Jim and Karen can just spread awareness with using this video. They probably got more donations now. We haven't talked to them in a little while, but they're great people. They were awesome to work with. So, yeah, I'm grateful we got the opportunity to make this piece.
This an isolated incident we will continue to keep you informed as this story unfolds. That's hard to be. Instead,